The history of the royal family of Hyrule is also the history of Calamity Galen, a fake gamer that has endured over 3 decades. This gamer has been wronged time and time again by a lack of knowledge about video games so heroic and the boisterous laughter of a goddess. With the passage of time, each embarrassment with Galen faded into history. So listen closely as I tell you of this gamer that we have suffered for what feels like 10,000 years. Nothing? You have nothing to say to that?
I'm flabbergasted. Who is this Galen that you speak of? He sounds like just the worst kind of person.
Okay, we're starting off on a real low note. Welcome back, asshole.
Thank you.
Hello, my Zoras, Ritos, Gerudos, and Gorons. Friends, thank you for joining us today on the Nintendo Everything Podcast, episode 96. My name is Oni Dino, and with me, I have a champion who died on the battlefield. He tripped over a rock like Jean Grey, rushing in. He fell on his face and he did nothing. It's Galen.
Wait, when did she trip? Like, I don't remember that.
Dude, in the animated series of X-Men, she was so useless. Whoever was the showrunner really didn't like Jean Grey.
Absolutely hated her.
Yes, yeah. I remember there was this one battle, I think they were fighting Apocalypse, and everybody was, getting beat up or whatever, just kind of one by one, and Jean Grey, all she did was trip. She just tripped and fell on her face, and that's how she was useless in the battlefield. Like, that reminds me also, it was as stupid as this. Remember the Justice League movie? Did you see that?
I have seen clips of it. I haven't seen the whole thing.
Well, it's terrible.
I kind of assumed it was.
There is a time when they're all fighting Steppenwolf, and like everybody, gets like beat up or whatever, and for Batman, the only thing that happens for him is his gun just stops working.
The first problem is, why does Batman still have a gun?
It's fine. It's great. Listen, it's great.
No, it's not great. That just
Zack
sounds
Snyder
painful.
knows exactly what he's doing. He's great.
Oh my god, no.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Snyder Cut. Those weirdos. Those release the Snyder Cut weirdos. My god. Okay. Yeah. Let's insult as many groups of people as I possibly can, or as many fandoms as I possibly can before we start the episode, huh?
Well, Zelda is on the docket today, so yeah, I think we're in good form.
I have lots of positive things to say about Zelda this week. I wonder, what do you have to say? Lots of negative things? Positive?
Maybe. We'll just have to see.
Oh my god! Galen, it's wonderful to have you back. You were not on the episode last week, and so many people sent me in questions and said, does Galen has died?
Yeah, I noticed that you sent out a couple of things just saying I'm dead, and people actually started to believe you, so... Yeah, it was really weird. I woke up, and for some reason I was covered in ketchup, and Barry was sitting on me. Like, I don't know what happened, so...
No, you didn't. It's fine. Ignore it. So on this episode, of course, the Zelders. We're talking about the Zelders. We're also not talking about something. Oh my god, what could that be? Wait for the news.
Pokemon drama?
Was there more drama in Pokemon this week?
No, but we're not talking about it. It's not in the news.
Oh god. I no longer missed you.
Hey, over the past year, Pokemon drama has been like 50-50 on will it show up in the episodes, so...
Dude, Galen, that was like last year.
I missed last year. I want to go to there.
You know where you also want to go, lovely listeners, is to the Apple Podcasts. And leave us a lovely review on the Apple Podcasts.
5-star ratings as well.
5-star lives on the Apple Podcasts. So that way we can get recommended through algorithms. We've had a nice little jump in some listeners lately, and that I have no idea where that comes from. Welcome, any of our new listeners. Let us know where you came from, just because I have no idea. But thank you. And and maybe it is thanks to the algorithms, which therefore I have to thank all of our lovely listeners who have left us reviews. So please continue to do that, because that helps us to grow, helps us to do more giveaways, and helps us to create more middling content for your ears.
And if there's anything that we are all about on this show, it is personal growth. See, I'm not setting up with a joke there. That's personal growth for me.
You are the joke. So here we are in our adventure log. What do we do? Oh,
we talk about video games. What do you
do? Yes, where we talk about the video games we've been playing this past week. You can find me on Twitter. That's at Oni_Dino. Galen, what about you?
You can find me very much alive on Twitter at Mobius087. Also,
I have been doing a other weekly podcast on a platform called Get Vocal, getvokl.com, and it's on Fridays if you are on the West Coast, or what? Wait a second. The Western Hemisphere. And then it's like technically Saturday mornings, like 1 a.m. if you're in like Europe and stuff. Anyway, come to my Twitter and you can see, you know, the time zone postings and all that junk. It's been a ton of fun. It's live, it's interactive, so that's the hook of it, is that, and what makes it very different from this podcast that we do. This one is structured and edited, and the podcast that I do on Get Vocal is totally live, unscripted, uncensored, pew, 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 pew. And you can join in on the text bar and chat with me there. And you can also designate like what we talk about. So if I come to the table and like, let's talk about Zelda, and you're like, no, let's talk about Splatoon, then I'll be like, sure, let's do that. I'll talk about anything. That's fine. The big thing is I want to hear your opinions and what you guys have to say. This past week especially was so much fun. There were tons of people there. Chat was going wild. People were calling in and being like, get the F out of the call in because I want to call in. And it was great. It was so much fun. I ended up doing it for an extra hour just because like everybody was just there and engaged, and it was great. So please do join me over there on Get Vocal. Sorry, this ended up being a long pitch, but I just had a really good time.
Nah, it's cool. I haven't caught the most recent episode that you did, but I caught the one before that. And yeah, no, the show's turning out really well. It's a very nice dynamic and more of a group open forum conversation that you're having.
Yeah, it's honestly just a big excuse for me to like hang out and chat with people live. It's turning out to be so much fun.
Plus, it is always nice to see your wonderful husband.
Oh yeah, Cliff's there. Cliff joins me just because he happens to be stuck in this coffin of a home.
That's how I got shoved into this show, so.
I think that you're a little bit... You know what? Some prisoners willingly wear their shackles, Galen. That's what I'm going to say about this. So Galen, just before we talk about video games, how about you tell me about your vacation? I know so many people had asked about you and said that they missed you, so they'd probably want to know just a little bit about what you did last week. What's going on?
Yeah, no, I took a couple's trip with my wife and her brother and his wife. And the four of us all went up to Michigan State, actually. We rented out a little B&B cabin over there. It's a little bit... cozier compared to the camping that I'm used to, but more glamping than anything. I think that's the technical term for it. But I had a lot of fun, actually.
Can you explain what glamping is to people who may not know?
So glamping is the idea of you're going camping somewhere in the woods, but there's like a cabin that you're setting up with air conditioning, and like I had Wi-Fi out there. It is not the you go out, pitch a tent, and roll out the sleeping bag and then, you know, enjoy nature in that regard. So,
AKA glamour camping.
Yeah. No, it was a lot of fun. It was very relaxing to kind of get away from a lot of the angry people in general. So it was very nice. Had some fun bonding moments while playing some games. I got to play a little bit of Mario Party with the family while I was over there. I went ahead and played...
Did you do the thing that they do in all the marketing material where people are camping and you set up your Switch and you take off the Joy-Con? Did you do that?
God, no. No. I have more respect for myself than that.
I'm not sure you do, but go on.
No, but I can use that as an excuse.
And you will.
I definitely will. We set it up. They had a TV there, so I just plugged my Switch in there and we all played a game. I think it was like the last night that we were there. My wife absolutely kicked everybody's ass. I have no idea how that happened, but she ended up with like 15, 16 stars by the end of the thing. It's like, I don't even know. But no, also had some like relaxing moments where we all just kind of like went off and did our own thing. My brother-in-law Chris went ahead and brought his 3DS and he's playing through one of the Dragon Quest games right now. So
oh, nice. 7, 8?
I want to say it's 8. Don't quote me on that. But
are they chibi characters or are they regular proportion?
I didn't actually see, but he did have the sound on, so I was hearing the sound effects and everything that was coming from it. So,
it's all the same.
Yeah, it's all the same thing. It sounded chibi? Can that be a thing?
No.
But no, it was very relaxing. So
great.
I spent a little bit of time reading some D&D books myself.
That's a horribly embarrassing thing to announce to everybody on the podcast.
Hey, if you're looking for a DM, hit me up. I have no problem playing over the internet.
A dominatrix master?
I think you are the first person to have ever made that joke in the history of, Dungeons and Dragons.
I just made up that term. I must have been.
Mm-hmm. You must have been.
This is strange. Well, Galen, welcome back. It was lovely not having you here. It's also lovely having you back. So this week, I have been playing one of the many lovely indie video games that were announced in that indie presentation that Nintendo did about a month ago.
Fantastic. Which one have you been playing?
Manifold Garden.
That is the weird perspective, like, I want to say it's an Escher painting. I'm probably wrong on that because I do not know my arts.
Yeah, no, Escher is correct. I don't know whether it is like genuinely Escher.
Mm-hmm.
Or not, because I mean they're two totally different mediums, but definitely reminiscent of each other. So this is the first-person puzzle game where you manipulate gravity to sort of reorientate the whole world. The whole world will flip 90 degrees depending on which direction you flip it.
Okay.
And so walls become ceilings, ceilings become floors, and so on. Visually, it's kind of cel-shaded look to it, very heavy outlines and then soft colors. There's not a whole lot of like texturing that goes. I mean, there is textures, but they're not noticeable textures. You're not going to see like rock formations and I don't know, like stones in there or something like that. It's all very much feels like you are in a sketch or in a piece of art on paper.
Okay.
The color palette is absolutely great. There's lots of like lavender, cyan, rose reds, and lush greens. And then like the sky and like backdrop of everything is, not bright blue or pure white or something. It's like a cream white. So it feels like a lot of like, say like a Da Vinci sketch or something like that you see on like sort of like tea-soaked paper. It feels like that.
Mm-hmm.
The UI, well, it's not even really a UI. It's like you go into the menu because there's no... Oh, no. It is UI. I'm getting it confused with HUD. There is no HUD, but the menus and stuff are minimalistic and gorgeous. I love when minimalism is just nailed super perfectly. I need to figure out exactly what font that is because that font is so easy on the eyes as somebody who is constantly looking at text all day, translating.
Oh, yeah.
I love a good font.
I am right there with you. So
You don't translate.
No, but I look at a computer screen all day.
Okay, yeah. And like you said, it's MC Escher style art where just like
stairways are constantly going, and it feels like they connect into each other. You can flip everything around, so it's perfectly designed so that way you can keep going no matter which way you orientate the world.
Okay.
And if you jump off of like the tower or the cliff or whatever you're on, or not cliff, but because everything is like a structure, like a human built structure.
Jump off the edge.
Yeah, if you jump off the edge, thank you. You kind of continue to go in infinity because everything is repeating itself. So if you're like, oh, I need to get on top of the building above me, well, let me jump off of this building and then fall infinitely until the building resets itself and then I get on the roof.
Weird.
Yeah. It really makes you think about video games in a really different way because this isn't a common thing done. So a good example here is the very first puzzle that I did when I got out of the tutorial. So when you start off, you're inside of a room and you do like 4 or 5 different rooms that sort of get you to understand the basics of like, this is how you flip a room and this is how you're going to do it to figure out push block puzzles. Or they're not push block puzzles, they're you pick up a block and then you set it where you want. And sometimes you need to orientate the room because the blocks will only interact with the color of the floor that you're orientated on. So if your floor is yellow, then that's the whole yellow thing. So that means that your yellow block can be interacted with. If you flip the gravity again, then your floor is green, then you can't interact with anything yellow, whether it's a switch, whether it's a block or something like that. It's really hard to put into words, but it is brilliantly designed, honestly, because it keeps things very segmented and compartmentalized. That way you're not like, oh my god, I have so many different options and like, did I just completely screw up by bringing this block over or whatever? Like, none of that. You don't have to worry about it. It's very, very user friendly. Like, you would think you would get disorientated as F, but that doesn't happen for me.
And I can imagine that's really difficult to program into design because giving the player that amount of freedom to basically mess with the physics of the game itself. How does that translate while you're actually playing it? Does it feel smooth?
Yes. So you move very quickly because sometimes there are really long staircases or something that you go on, and there is a run button.
Okay.
So everything feels very smooth. It doesn't feel like super floaty or anything like that. You have a weight to you, so I'll get into some floaty stuff later on with another game I'm going to talk about. But getting back to the first puzzle, though, that I wanted to mention. So once you get out of those tutorial stages, you get outside of what feels like a building, and then you're on the outside of a building. It feels like you're on the outside of a skyscraper. And just in the distance on another building, you can see a platform and a door. And it's like, okay, I think that's where I need to go because the framing of walking out, that's what I see.
Yeah.
That's where I need to go. So let's try that. I was like, okay, I guess I have to climb the stairs, and then I have to go across the building, and then I have to, move over this way. And I did that for like 5, 6, 7 minutes. I was like, oh, I don't think I like this game. This feels really open-ended because you see so much stuff in the distance, so you can't like rely on what you see. And like, I was just like, oh, damn it, I don't think I like this game. But then I finally got over there just by like unelegantly, whatever, myself across the building, and I finally got there, and then I realized there was a little switch there. I needed to bring a block that I didn't notice from where I first came to get over there. And I was like, oh no, like, what am I gonna do? I don't want to do this. And I was ready to be like, you know what, this game's not for me. And then I was like, wait a second, you can fall into infinity. So then all I did to get back to point A is I jumped toward, or it fell off the edge. There's no jump button, I don't think. Fell off the edge toward my point A from point B, and just kept falling into infinity with like the building sort of like going past me and then coming back again, going past me and coming back again. And I landed back on point A in like 20 seconds. I was like, oh, that was the answer. And then when that hit me, I was like, damn, this game does some stuff. Okay, I didn't mean to do the Australian accent earlier, but I boomeranged back again, and I was all for this game.
I was actually about to ask, can I get a sound clip of you just going, oh no?
Yes. As you all know, I'm originally from Australia, and that's why my Australian accent is perfect.
That's why you call everybody Sheila.
That's right. Minga. That's some deep Australian slang for you.
Yeah, I'll believe that. I've never been to Australia, personally.
Yeah, well, they don't want you.
I wouldn't think that they would.
We don't want you.
I know enough about the culture not to reference them as that place from New Zealand, so... because that will just cause all of the fighting.
And you just did, so that's interesting.
Well, that's why they don't want me. Back to the game, though.
Yeah!
This is giving me some serious Portal vibes, the way that you're describing it.
Possibly. I never played Portal more than a little bit because I didn't like it. It just kind of disorientated me. Just for whatever reason, it just wasn't working with my brain. And so I was a little bit iffy on this one because I was like, okay, clearly this is like art steeped in math kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I do not have a math brain. I have very much a linguistic brain. So that's certain kinds of puzzles for me that I can really, really just go super deep into, and certain puzzles I can't even touch. So I was afraid about this one. But as soon as that happened with me with the first puzzle, I was like, okay, I just have to think totally differently than I usually play a video game. So I think somebody who's brand new to video games might have an easier time with this than, you know, somebody who has to like sort of break conventions that they have in their head. So anyway, I kept playing and it was great. It just went from like tower to tower. There's a bunch of like colored cubes that I mentioned before that, you know, correspond to your floor that you switch. And I'm just having a great time, and I can't wait to play more and have more impressions next week. It reminds me also, well, I shouldn't say it doesn't remind me of it. It's just, it more so gives me this feeling, and I didn't even realize I had this feeling until afterwards. Subconsciously, I was just like, man, I really want to rewatch 2001: A Space Odyssey. Don't exactly know why, but it just subconsciously gave me that feeling, and I love it. I very much love it.
Weird.
I can't believe how high up I am on this game. Definitely take a look at it if you are into puzzle games. I almost called it 2001: A Space Odyssey. It's called Manifold Garden.
So one question I wanted to ask while we're still on the topic, though, is you usually get this invested with more story-driven games. And you've just been talking specifically about the puzzling aspect of this. So is there a story to the game? Is there mystery? Like, what is the purpose of you going through these weird puzzles?
So far, there doesn't seem to be much of a story. I did happen upon, like, something that I had to solve that was connected by 4 towers, and it had, like, some sort of, like, what do I want to call it? Kind of like Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild style, like, corruption or goop on it.
Okay.
And I had to unlock that, so I'm wondering if maybe there'll be a bit of a story connected to that later, but there's no, like, you wake up and they tell you about this or blah, blah, blah. No, it's just puzzle game and go and visual aesthetic. Oh, speaking of visual aesthetic, I don't know if I really talked about it too much, but there's a photo mode. There's a great photo mode that lets you look at wherever you are in an orthographic or perspective projection. So it'll pull all the way back, or it'll be whatever your perspective is, and you can change the I don't remember what the sliders are called. They're definitely art related sliders, so I don't know, but it makes it either look more like a sketch or more in-depth, how far the field of view you can see things, and it's great. You can make actually a really cool background or something for your phone or your desktop or something like that. Highly appreciated, especially like in I don't know what to say, like irregular or atypical photo mode. Very much appreciated.
Well, that sounds really neat.
Yes, do give this game a second look if you haven't bought it. Manifold Garden on Switch.
Absolutely. And as a fake gamer who's never played a game before, I'm sure I will have an easier time than most people.
That's true, except that you're really bad at game.
We don't know that because I've never played a game before.
We'll never know.
We will.
There's no way to know, unfortunately.
And the mystery is what keeps life going. You're welcome.
How embarrassing. Galen,
Oni,
you love RPGs.
I do. I enjoy an RPG from time to time.
You like making things.
I do. I enjoy making things from time to time. Sometimes those times, like, intersect.
You like Roman numerals.
Only up to, like, 28. Then it just gets to be a little old hat.
Tell me about RPG Maker MV.
Yes. So while browsing the eShop, I found that RPG Maker MV has come to the Switch. I want to say this is something that has been either out there for a while. I'm not entirely sure what category I found it in. So
it came out in Japan quite a long time ago, like maybe a year ago, and then it finally reached the West just this past week, I think, or maybe the prior. And
that's probably why I found it in the new releases section. So there are two separate aspects to this. There is the actual RPG Maker program game that you would buy, and I believe it's currently on sale for like $50 US. I'm not entirely sure.
It definitely isn't a full 60.
Correct. The other aspect of that, however, is the player version. Now, the player version is free. Anybody can go ahead and download this, and that is their portal to be able to play the games that you are making. So it's a two-part system, primarily. I did not download the Maker program. I downloaded the player one because I wanted to see what are people making on this system.
And you're also cheap.
Yes, that too.
Hey, TikTok, time is money. Tell us about it.
Exactly. So I downloaded a couple of different games just to get a grasp of the different systems. I have yet to be able to find a game that is fully fleshed out to an overall experience, but I've been able to get little segments. And I think that has something to do with the time that the game has been out, that people have been able to pull everything together in.
Yeah, takes time.
Yeah, takes a little bit of time.
Give the creative geniuses some room to make their game.
Exactly.
You awful consumer.
Downloading a couple of them, I can definitely tell you that the games that the majority of the people are going to be making are going to be more traditional RPGs. It is a lot of standing sprites, kind of like marching along while they're standing in place, that kind of a thing.
Love it.
Yeah. Breath of Fire, Final Fantasy, the early ones, that kind of a thing.
This is getting sexual.
Yeah, exactly. Going into combat, it also pulls the system out, and it is traditional JRPG style. Like, you see the enemies, think Dragon Quest.
Oh,
you see
baby.
the enemies, and you just enter in your attacks. It's turn-based. You go.
I'm going with this metaphor. I can't stop.
Your RPG sexual?
I've had 3 coffees.
With that being said, I do have some experience with the RPG Maker program for past iterations. So one of the things that I've always been very impressed by is the amount of creativity that it allows you to be able to put things together. One of my favorite things in the RPG program was you can create your own attack animations. And a lot of that has to do with like downloading different, packs onto the system and using your own creativity with the sprites that you have in order to put it all together and make it as flashy as you want to. It's a good learning tool for learning how to be a bit sparse in designing your animations. You don't want to have your basic attack animation be this 30-second long limit break with, your anime million slashes and then the enemy just explodes. You don't want to do that like every single time. So
Yeah.
You also want to balance it out as well to, like, if you're using a basic fire attack, you want to make sure that the damage that goes along with it is reflective upon that as well. So
Otherwise, it just feels off. Like there's so many.
Yeah.
We talked about this a bit when we had the devs from No Straight Roads on, but like there's so many little touches to video games, whether it's visual or audio, oral, whatever, where people don't consciously notice it, especially just the average consumer. They don't consciously notice it, but then when it's not there, the little touch, then it just feels off and it doesn't feel right.
And that, I feel, is a lot of where you get the term of bullet sponges in certain games. Like, you're sitting there unloading all these attacks into the enemy, but he's not reacting to any of what you are doing into it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is a good learning opportunity for people who are developing games to kind of realize what works and what doesn't work. So, it's interesting coming back to this sort of a series in the mindset that I am as an older person. Simply because when I went through RPG Maker, the majority of the time I was very young and idealistic and didn't really, I'm going to have all these cool aspects in here. It's going to be so nice. And there was no balance to anything.
And nothing has changed.
Nothing has changed. Although I do remember you doing quite a bit of RPG Maker yourself back in the day.
Longtime listeners of the podcast will know that back in junior high, so that's like grade 6, 7, 8, Galen and I would hang out at his place. Galen had a computer. I've never had a computer at this point. And he had RPG Maker 2000 installed on his computer. And we just would sit there and do that for hours. Just hours and hours. Like basically every weekend we'd hang out and do that.
I had to look for it. I think I still have those original files on some hard drives somewhere. But
well, that's embarrassing.
The embarrassing thing is what we call the game.
Moving on. Galen, what kind of video games have you been playing on the player so far? The RPG Maker player?
Well, and again, a lot of the games that I've been finding out there. There was one where it seemed like an interesting setup where the kid obviously wanted to build something that it was, you are the son of this vampire lord that has taken over humanity, and you need to fight for humanity's sake. And it was very like, okay, let's see what you've got here. But all he did was the opening intro, and that was it. Nothing else. And it was very strange that was what was published onto the system, which makes me wonder if there's some sort of limitations onto what, like, the length of what you can put onto the Switch so far, or the complexity of it.
I really don't know, but I'm just gonna guess that they put out just what they had so far, what they had made so far. I think that you can make, full-fledged games. You just have to download them all. Exactly,
yeah. I found another one where this was actually really nice. It was a guy who made just one field with a bunch of NPCs. You would walk around, and the NPCs would give you various tips and tricks on how to build games and things to consider while you're making it. Like, don't make your enemies too strong, or come up with an interesting plot story for a character that you're about to add to your party. Things like that. And I just thought that little tips and tricks level was fun to have.
I love that.
Yeah. There's a third one that I did where no preference, no idea on who the characters I was playing was. It literally threw me into a hallway with random encounters. You would just walk around and randomly get into the battles. And then there was a boss battle, and the guy's name was Mike. You fought Mike at the very end of it, and it was this big ogre guy, but when you talk to him, his sprite was just like a bald guy in a business suit.
And somebody hates their low-level management person.
Yeah, and then after you beat Mike, you just keep on walking around in this empty hallway. It doesn't go anywhere.
Game of the year.
Game of the year 2020.
Best game on Switch.
Exactly.
Rest in peace, Zelda.
Yeah. My hope is that with this game now out and more people getting their hands on it, people are really able to dive into telling the stories that they want to. There's a lot of potential of what you can do with this system.
Yeah. I always love the idea of RPG Maker and other people playing your games. And so if any of our lovely listeners are buying this or thinking about buying it and you're going to make something, I would love to play it. So please do share
100%.
like those codes with us on Twitter or whatever. You can message Galen and I. I super love the idea of this. So
yeah, I have to be honest, while I was playing this, I kind of like struck that itch for me and was like, I kind of want to make a D&D based one. Like,
I know what you mean.
Yeah, there's a campaign that I used to run called Curse of Strahd, and it was just a vampire has taken over a countryside and you're stuck in this alternate universe and you have to try to like free the land. But I want to take that campaign and find a way to translate it into RPG Maker. Because I think there's a lot you can do with that.
You should think about it, Galen. It's a pretty cool idea.
I know. It's funny because while nothing that I played wowed me all that much, the potential of what I saw got me interested enough into thinking about picking the actual builder version of the game up.
You could do your own like little offshoot mini-series podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Where you talk about your development of your game and you get feedback and you even have guests in or something like that. You can do it on Get Vocal if you wanted to.
Just not Friday nights at 7:30 Central Time.
That is not the time.
That's why I said not at that time.
Well, Galen, that sounds excellent, and honestly, sort of planted that seed for me as well about RPG Maker.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about it. I ain't got the time, but I'm thinking about it.
That's really why I kind of wanted to talk about it on the show, because I hope other people also get interested in this, because I want to see what people have.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
Any of our lovely listeners, I'm sure out of the amount of people that we have listening, some of you have to be interested in something like this. So let's talk about it, because you might be able to convince me into a purchase.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, I want to be convinced.
There you go.
Something not so convincing, though, is this next game we're going to talk about.
Draft Nonica?
No. Thank you for listening to the former podcast, though, Galen. This week, I'm going to talk about a little game called Gleamlight. Now, you might remember this because this was in an indie presentation some time ago. It's got a very arresting visual style. It is a basically 2D Metroidvania, I guess.
Yeah, I want to say this one was this the one that it was like Hollow Knight but with crystals?
Yeah, I honestly, I haven't played very much of Hollow Knight, so I can't see the very strong resemblance that a lot of people are getting with it.
Okay.
It really just looks like a highly stylized stained glass visual 2D Metroidvania. So I mean, so many Metroidvanias have so many similarities between them visually that I don't think that the Hollow Knight comparison is particularly apt. And especially after playing it, it sure is not particularly apt.
Really? That's disappointing.
It really is. So let's start off on the positive visually. Probably this is the only reason that we're really talking about it, or anybody is talking about it, because it's not particularly good, which, pains me to say, of course. But visually, it's great. Stained glass aesthetic. A lot of effort went into how this game looks and how you interact with the environment. There's like grass for you to cut, but the grass are all crystals. You're in like a crystal mine. And it has a very otherworldly feel to it, and you really feel like, oh, this is a engaging world. There's also some very nice lighting, so you really get the feel of being like in a mine or underground or whatever, because your character is illuminated and they have like a circle of light kind of around them, but it gradually fades into darkness, so you can't see like the very edges of the screen very well, which makes you be a bit pensive when you continue through the cave and the battles and you're looking after enemies and all that stuff. So it has a nice feel.
Yeah, it's a artificial sense of claustrophobia, which, if used properly, can be really build up on the experience that you have of the game.
Yeah. You play as like a little cute red mage-looking character, and they have this sword, and you're going through the mine, fighting these enemies that are also crystal aesthetic. You have to pay attention to the environment because in cutting the grass or like whatever stuff is on like the corner of the walls or something, there might be a gem in there, and the gem will help you progress. More on that later. It's very cool looking. It really is. Sound design when hitting enemies and stuff all sounds very good and crunchy, very functional, exactly how you would expect it to sound. It's doing its job there. The music, however, is a real shame because it's got the right ambiance to it. It's got like bells and almost like an orgel feel to it. But the problem is that it's like 6-second loops, and it was really getting on my nerves.
That's unfortunate.
And so this is kind of where things start to go downhill for me. So you start off, gameplay wise, it's very, very limited. You just move, you jump, and you have a 2/sword combo, and that's it.
Okay.
Your movement is a little floaty, which didn't bother me too much until I kept playing a little bit more. I could tell that some of the platforming parts they wanted me to do, I just kind of had no feel of the character because there was no weight. It just kind of felt like you were tossing your character around the map. Maybe like a preset in Unity or Unreal, whatever this is using, and it wasn't tweaked with too much. It just kind of, you went with a preset and then just kind of went with it or something. I don't know. I feel like that's actually like, that's very harsh, especially when I don't know what I'm talking about in terms of development, but just as a consumer, that's how it felt to me, is something like that.
It was a strange design choice.
It was just an unthoughtful choice. I don't even think it was a design choice, and that's going to kind of be the thread that goes throughout the rest of this. There doesn't seem to be any experience system or anything unique outside of attacking enemies. So the one thing that I definitely did like about the combat system is that when you hit an enemy, you take their life. And when an enemy hits you, they take yours. So for example, if enemy A takes 3 hits before they die, and you've hit them twice, then they hit you once after that, you now have to hit them 2 more times instead of 1 more time to kill them.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, so there's this weird, like, back and forth, almost like a rope pull.
Yeah, kind of.
Like a tug of war.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's a really cool mechanic because it encourages you not to get hit. And so, that's good. That makes you play carefully. And how much health you or the enemy has is visually represented, because there's no HUD or anything like that. It's visually represented by their colors and their glow. So the dimmer that sprite gets, the less health they have. And I like that.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty cool.
So you overall are just moving from screen to screen, and you do a little platforming sometimes, but it doesn't feel particularly good. And that's partly your character feel. That's also partly because the platforms aren't well designed. So there's no UI, there's no tutorial, you just start and you go, which is totally cool, but the game has to be good at teaching you how to play by its rules. It has to like breadcrumb you, you know what I mean? Perfect example of this is Super Mario Bros. On the NES World 1-1. It teaches you in stages, in breadcrumbs, all about jumping, enemies, power-ups, secret blocks, all that stuff, and it's great. It very naturally teaches the player. This game doesn't really do that. For example, in this game, there's these like large red gems on the wall that I was hitting, and I just thought they were health refills or something, because when you hit anything, it kind of sucks a couple of like tiny orbs towards you, so it looks like you're like sucking life from something, and vice versa when an enemy hits you. So when I hit these red orbs, it did the same thing, so I thought it was just a health refill placed around the world. Now they're actually unlocking doors for you to progress to the next screen. I didn't figure this out until several screens in, on a particularly large screen where I just hit a wall, and I was just stuck there. Like, I saw that there was a door. It visually looked like a door, but I couldn't go through it. I didn't have anything at my disposal. And so I thought I needed a power up, so I started to go backward, but then I realized I couldn't jump up these platform areas that, I came from. So I was like, okay, either this is extremely poorly designed, or I do need to keep going this way, so I need to stay on this screen and discover what it is to push me forward, right?
Okay.
Thankfully, that was the case, because I ended up finding the red gem on the wall, hitting that, and then suddenly the door wasn't there anymore, and I was like, oh, I think these red gems have been unlocking doors.
Okay.
Now, I'm an asshole. My suggested solution to this, just as somebody who's played video games throughout their life, not somebody who's ever developed a video game, a perfect way for you to visually show this off to a player is they should have the player reach a door that you can't go through. So there's a door, and you have to unlock it. Then just ahead, in the same frame as the door, there could be a glowing gem, and then when you hit it, you can plainly see, because it's still in that same frame, that the door disappears. And then this gem could also be at a dead end, so when you walk back, you have to see the door, you have to notice that it's not there anymore after you've hit the gem, and the only thing that has changed is that you have hit a gem, right? That is a cut and dry way to show you that thing A causes thing B. And this game doesn't do anything like that at all, at least not in my experience. And also, these gems are in every screen, it seems, so you have to know what they mean. It's not like a small thing.
Yeah. The color choice of making it a red gem also does, because as video game players, we are trained to think of, red equals health, or green equals, magic or skill or something like that.
Well, I think about bright red equals interactable. Whether that's explosive barrel in Resident Evil or health or something like that. But I mean, it is good that it is that bright color choice, because it sticks out as something you want to hit or interact with. So that's good. Another example that I have of poor thought and poor design is the first boss. So it's this cool looking mining machine with these two claws coming out, kind of like a digger, but it looks like evil. It was cool. It reminded me of Fern Gully. Do you remember that animation?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So already there's some points there, right? But anyway.
So you're telling me Tim Curry is a boss in this game?
Yes, clearly. Anyway. Sorry, just thinking about Fern Gully now. Anyway, when you get to it, there's these two raised platforms above it and one ground platform. So think of Battlefield from Super Smash Bros. That stage.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's kind of what it looks like. And when you're on the raised platforms above, he'll reach up with his two little arms and hit you. And then if you're on the ground platform, he'll dash at you. And it's very simple. Good style for a first boss fight, Now, the boss dashes faster than you can move. You have one movement speed. You can't do anything. So, you would think, okay, I can't outrun him. I have to jump over him, or I have to jump on top of something. And you can't actually jump over him. If you can, it's very minuscule that you can actually clear him. I constantly was just hitting him, or he was hitting me, I should say. And when I got hit by him, he kind of sends you flying into a corner where you can very easily get more or less stun locked. And because once you get hit, you have some iframes, some invincibility frames, so you can try and, get away from him. But when you're in that corner, there's nothing you can jump onto to get away, and your iframes are short enough that you can't walk past his sprite without getting hit again and thrown back into the same corner. You know what I mean? And this is the first boss, and this is a very simple boss with basically 2 hits that I discovered. And it should be way more polished than this. It was borderline unplayable for me. So basically, I had to just jimmy the game and the game's logic to get it away from me, and it just felt awful. I was just this is not a designed game. There was hardly any thought put into the mechanics of this boss fight, how it would play out. I couldn't jump to the platforms above. They were too high for me to get to.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just not thought out at all. It was more like somebody visually thought about it and didn't design-wise and play-wise tweak it from there.
That's really strange.
It's just such a damn shame. It just doesn't feel like a video game.
Yeah. No, that sounds unfortunate more than anything.
It really is, and it's also really a shame to say such harsh things about a video game, especially an indie video game, because I know people put their heart and soul into creating video games. You can look at this game and be like, there was a vision, you know what I mean? At least visually. So I really do want to appreciate the devs if for some reason this, gets back to them. I'd really want to encourage them to keep trying and to, learn about some game design and what feels good and whatnot, and, work on that next one.
And it's really interesting to me because the way that you're describing it right now, it sounds like there are elements of they had a vision for what they wanted this game to be. Expressing the mechanics of the game via teaching you and showing you versus outright telling you. I can interpret that. I can interpret how you ran into that room with the crystal where you learn that the crystals open the doors. I can interpret that as an intentional thing of wanting to teach you, hey, crystals open doors for this particular kind of thing.
But the thing is that crystal was nowhere near the door, and I came across the crystal first, not the door, so I hit the crystal, not knowing that it opened up a door later on in the screen.
Exactly. But I see it as a very harsh way of teaching you the mechanics of the game, but it's not an earned way of earning that lesson.
It's not harsh. It's wrong. Honestly, it's. So overall, very sadly, I can't recommend this one. It looks very pretty, and oftentimes I can sit through, mediocre gameplay or kind of dull gameplay if something is very visually arresting, and just how a game makes me feel. And there's tiny little elements of that here, but overall I just couldn't enjoy playing it, and it's just a shame, really.
That's a shame, because the game does strike out in my mind because of the way it is visually.
Yeah, exactly.
Shame.
Shame. Shame.
Shame.
Ding, 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 shame. Ding, ding, ding.
You don't have to put this in, but did you see the it was some Comic-Con or something like that, but it was the lady dressed as the Shame lady, but she was following around somebody.
Miss Swan?
Miss Swan, yeah.
Yes.
No, you a Shame.
I saw that cosplayer at a convention I went to years ago.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
She picks it up and she's like, you can ring my bell. That is really, really good, yes.
It's really good.
Here we are in the news. Nothing happened. Let's move on.
Well, that's not true.
That's
Stuff
not
did
true.
happen.
Pocky and Rocky happened. Something I was never expecting to happen
That's a name
again.
I have not heard in a literal decade.
A literal 2 decades at the bare minimum.
Well, you talk about it a lot, so anyway.
Listen, damare, okay? How about damatara do desu ka?
Oni, tell us about Pocky and Rocky.
Hi.
Because there's probably a good chance there's a lot of people who have no idea what this is.
Yes, so this was a game on the Super Nintendo. It's been on a couple other systems too, because there's, I think, 4 maybe games in the series in total. I am just familiar with Pocky and Rocky 1 and 2. This is a multi-directional shooter. Which you would definitely not think it's a shooter by just looking at it, but it is. When I first started playing this, way back in the day, I didn't know it was a shooter, so I was trying to play it in a different way, and it wasn't very fun. Then I realized, no, it's a shooter. You're throwing things that's the way that you fight. So you are a shrine maiden, and you have a raccoon dog called Manuke as your partner. So that's Pocky and that's Rocky. And you are fighting off a bunch of like cute versions of yokai or like Japanese folkloric creatures. And it's just a ton of fun, a great 2-player game. It's top down. It's just a great game of the Super Nintendo era.
Think of it as a twin-stick shooter before there was a second stick.
So it's just a shooter.
Well, sort of. I actually do wonder. I do wonder if they're going to update
Galen.
I do wonder if they're going to update this to be a twin-stick shooter.
If they're smart, they'll give lots of control options, like classic and maybe a twin stick or something like that. Yeah, so anyway, getting to what the real news is there is a new Pocky Rocky coming out in the same style of like Super Nintendo 16-bit Pocky and Rocky. And it's coming out next year. It was announced in Japan and is confirmed for the West as well for 2021. This is also made by Tango Project. They did the Ninja Savior, or the Ninja Warriors, which is also a game from the Super Nintendo era that I thought would never ever exist again. And they did a re-release of it on Switch with like, it's like an updated port. It's like a soft reboot. Awesome to see.
Yeah.
Very much forgotten games coming back.
It is also worth mentioning on this topic that we are going to be seeing a little bit more of this game later in the month. I believe this is going to be shown at the Tokyo Game Show 2020 online.
Yeah.
I didn't know they were doing an online version.
Yes. So a lot of like little announcements that are happening right now are like, you'll hear more at the end of this month with Tokyo Game Show. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. But I'm excited. This is not something I was expecting to see, so...
It looks great, too. Look up screens of this, especially if you're into sprite work. It looks like late era SNES sprite work, and it's just beautiful. Just my total aesthetic.
This is excellent.
And next is an official announcement that No More Heroes 3 is delayed till next year. No real surprise there. We haven't seen, like, proper gameplay of it. They said it was going to be this year. Even when they announced it, they were like, you think so?
I'm honestly really surprised we didn't hear this coming out sooner.
Yeah. So no surprises there. Just an official word, which is good. Get that to the people. You take as long as you need, Goichi Suda, because we are all up on No More Heroes 3. We will wait for it. We've waited over 10 years, so we're fine, right?
True. Yeah.
You looking forward to this game, Galen?
I am. Like, I was a big fan of the first one. I never played the second one. And I know that you have been ecstatic about this game ever since. I'm looking at our news article right now, and I'm actually seeing the artwork that came with this announcement. And I'm looking at the little details that they have on Travis's costume. Like, I really like his glove, as odd as that sounds, because it kind of looks like little Switch controllers in a way.
Oh, does it? I need to look at that artwork again.
Yeah, no, it's got the red and the green color scheme, which is something that, you know, you can have on the Switch. It's a little detail. It's probably not 100% meant to be like that, but it's what I thought of. So, but no, I'm really excited for this game.
Yeah. So speaking of that, Grasshopper put out a statement on Twitter, so you can go to our website or you can go to Suda51's Twitter to read the full statement, just basically being like, you know, we're working hard on it, blah, 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 that kind of stuff. And it doesn't read like a normal press release, which is nice too. It reads fairly authentically, which is nice.
Yeah.
And they also mentioned that they brought on one of the animators from the comic series The Boys to do art. So that art that you're looking at there is from a illustrator who worked on The Boys.
Excellent.
And then the big news this week, out of nowhere, lighting me a fire, just absolutely made my day.
Oni, we already talked about Pocky and Rocky.
Oh, okay.
But we can talk about Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity.
Galen, that's not the title. I think that you are referring to Crisis Core: Breath of the Wild.
Okay.
That's a Final Fantasy joke, you fake gamer.
Is that the one where they brought back Zack?
It is. You just guessed that because you don't know shit about shit, but it is. Good job. All right, Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity, the official prequel to Breath of the Wild, explaining the gigantic war that they had 100 years ago before Link got knocked out.
I have to be 100% honest. When I heard about this and watched this for the first time, I thought this was an expansion to the existing Hyrule Warriors. I thought this was additional DLC. I did not know this was a standalone game.
No, girl. This is a full-on game. So we're getting big old wars, which is perfect for the setting. Set in the world of Breath of the Wild. You can play as a bunch of different characters. We're going to hear way more about it at Tokyo Game Show. But you can play as all the champions, as Zelda, Link, and then I hope we can play as young Impa. I think we got a glimpse of her in the trailer. If you look closely, there's a scene where... well, hold on. Before I even get into that. What is this game? It is a Warrior spin-off title. And Hyrule Warriors... which was on Wii U, 3DS, and also on Switch as the full, complete, definitive edition, which is great. It's a great game. It is arguably one of the absolute best Warrior spin-off games. Koei Tecmo.
Oh, absolutely.
Koei Tecmo make excellent Warrior spin-off games when given the proper budget and time. So, for example, Dragon Quest Heroes 2 is probably my favorite Warrior spinoff ever. Hyrule Warriors probably my second favorite. So I am insanely hyped for this. I am just so insanely hyped. They did such a good job with the last one. It is fast-paced, non-stop action, big, flamboyant, crazy attacks. If you've seen the trailer, you know what I'm talking about. It's just, it taps into my adolescent excitement of like watching stuff like Power Rangers and Sailor Moon and like anime and stuff like that, just because everything was big and bombastic and like just
lots of making an attack and an explosion happening right behind you.
Yeah. Like just it's cool action and it's easy. It's not hard or something. You can make it harder on yourself, but it just pure fun, just pure fun for me.
What I'm really excited about is that we get to see more of the champions in there, because you had these story elements where a little bit of flashbacks on talking to each of the people, but I feel like they deserved more focus on, you know, their personalities, because there was so much personality to them that they packed in there.
Yeah,
I'm so excited to see that not only played out, but also see how that plays out in combat as well too.
Yeah, so this is actually something we talked about on my podcast most recently at Get Vocal. We really just like totally bullshit about whatever on there. So we just kind of talked about like the appeal of Breath of the Wild, the appeal of Zelda and stuff like that. Very organic conversation.
Yeah.
So a little plug right there for Get Vocal. Come chat over there. But anyway, yes, one of the things that I feel like, because I really like Breath of the Wild, of course, but there are definite little Bajabagada.
Those were words.
I was speaking Irish right there, apparently.
I don't think you were.
I think I was. You know what? Maybe you can't speak Irish and you can not discern.
No, but I would love to learn how to speak Gaelic.
It's not called Gaelic. It's called Irish. Dude, there are literally Irish speakers listen to this podcast. I know.
Okay.
Anyway, what was I even saying before you destroyed me? Put that on my tombstone, Galen. That is the crossroads of my entire life when we met. What was I even saying before you destroyed me, Galen? The appeal. Okay. So, Jesus, Breath of the Wild. One of my big disappointments with that game was the story. It just wasn't super heavy on story. I wanted to know so much more. So I'm glad that they're fleshing this out. We didn't hear too much about like the champions themselves. There just wasn't a whole lot of storytelling in there. So this Hyrule Warriors, despite it being a Warriors game, which is all about the, crazy combat 1 versus 1,000 kind of thing, it seems like this is a very story heavy one that they worked extremely closely with the Zelda team, way more so than the original Hyrule Warriors, which is, like a spin-off, like what if kind of situation. There's portals and that's how everybody comes together. This one seems to be like it's going to be genuine canon.
Hyrule Warriors was your Legend of Zelda the movie anime spin-off, where there's some things happen, but nothing can be considered canon.
Okay, Galen. So it seems like there's going to be actually a genuine focus on story. So people who are looking for more story with with Breath of the Wild can play Age of Calamity and see what's up there.
I'm really excited for it.
Me too, like on both aspects.
Yeah. Out of curiosity, is there a particular champion that you are excited to play as?
Honestly, all of them. Like maybe Rivali or Urbosa are probably my most excited. The two whom I'm most excited for. How about you?
Yeah. Urbosa, definitely. I just love her character design as a whole. And I loved that they showed the dodge and strike mechanic in the
she
trailer.
did a perfect dodge and then everything slowed down. I'm really curious to see what they're going to do with the gameplay mechanics. I hope that they really do make it quite different from Hyrule Warriors, because in the span of time since that was originally developed and all the other Warriors spin-off titles that we've seen, Koei Tecmo can really get kind of different with how they approach things. So I really, really hope that they really go for it with this one.
Yeah. Also, there's the elements of Breath of the Wild that can be brought into the game, such as the wide variety of different weapons that you can actually play.
Yeah.
They showed this as a pre-order bonus. They said it is pre-order bonus instantly available right now, but it could be available later down the road as like paid content, which is kind of a red flag for me a little bit.
Yeah, that's stupid.
No, they showed the pot and the ladle that you can equip onto Link's character.
Yeah, it's a ladle and a pot lid. It's probably going to function like a sword and a shield in
most
terms
likely,
of...
yeah. But I would love to see if they do that and you can equip like your fire sword or your ice spear.
Oh,
sure. Yeah, like your thunder greatsword, and how those will play differently.
So how it worked in like Hyrule Warriors is that you had a character and then you chose what weapon you wanted to use, and your weapon was your playstyle. And Hyrule Warriors had so many. So many. So like Link could have his sword, his gauntlets, which he had the ball and chain with. He had Epona. What else was there? Oh, the spinner, the fire rod, all of them totally different playstyles. It was like you were playing a different character with each weapon. So you had different speed, different attacks. Everything was totally different. So I really hope that they, go for it with this one as well.
No, absolutely.
A little bit of the gameplay that I wanted to mention is I wonder if we can, use divine beasts to some degree. Like, maybe that's like a story mission or something where it's like, activate Va Rudania or whatever the hell that one was called. And
they did show the divine beasts in there.
Yeah, and they showed them, they were blue color. So if they're blue color, that means that they're under the good guys' control. If they're red color, it means they're under Calamity Ganon's control. So hoping that like there'll be like a thing like you have to, do this thing in this side of the map and this thing and this thing, then it'll bring together the big divine beast, and then it'll clear out an area or something, just little missions like that. We saw from some of the screenshots so far that it is going to be like, okay, you have to save these soldiers over here, or you have to liberate this kind of thing over here. So it'll be really interesting. It also seems that we're going to have destructible enemy camps. I wonder if that's going to serve as like basically like the fortress kind of thing in Hyrule Warriors.
Could be, yeah.
Because I saw in the trailer... Oh, speaking of which, Zeltic has a video that he put up on, trailer analysis. He does really good job on trailer analyses as well. So check him out on YouTube, Zeltic.
Mm-hmm.
There is like a Moblin tower, you know how like you found those in Breath of the Wild just wandering around, where Link destroyed it and it started to crumble. So maybe that's going to be like, okay, Moblins will spawn from there. You have to destroy that in order to stop the Moblins from spawning.
Yeah. There's a bunch of different ways I can actually play with the mechanics of this game as a whole.
Yeah.
And God, I'm really excited for this, and especially with it coming out at the end of November, like this is gonna be a huge seller. Like this game is going to be really successful.
I can't wait. It's so soon. I don't have to wait long for it. It's really, really wonderful. Like, oh, it's just so good. Oh,
yeah.
So happy.
One of my biggest regrets for the Wii U era was I never got a chance to play. Well, I never gave myself a chance to play the original Hyrule Warriors. And I know they've done remakes and everything. I have a copy of Hyrule Warriors for the Wii U. Never actually opened it up or played it, and I regret that entirely.
That's weird.
And I know, it's super weird, but I'm not going to miss this chance with this game.
Yeah, and you know, from time to time, Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition goes on sale on Switch for like 30% off. So if you do see it on sale, I highly recommend it. It's 1080p and it's an unlocked frame rate, but it goes up to 60 frames when it's docked. And it has all of the content in there, all of the characters. It is just so much content. You could just play it forever.
That's excellent.
Very last thing I wanted to mention about Hyrule Warriors Crisis Core is the characters. So there is clearly a cute little guardian guy right in the main artwork.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a new character. I can't wait to meet him. I love little robots. I think we see young Impa in a scene in the trailer where Zelda is talking to her father, and Link and what looks like, you know, a Sheikah lady, who I think is young Impa, are bowed down, and you see them from the back.
Okay, I just thought of something, but go on.
And I hope we see some OC as well. I hope we see some brand new characters, some brand new enemies as well.
Mm-hmm.
I just would love to see Koei Tecmo and Nintendo's takes on some of these characters, some brand new characters set in the aesthetic of Breath of the Wild.
Who are some characters that you would love to see into this game?
Like playable characters?
Yes, like playable, you've got a fighting style that goes along with it.
Honestly, I'm not so many things really come to mind outside of what they've really confirmed is, you know, champions and your main characters. I want to see Impa for sure. Maybe a Great Fairy.
That could be interesting.
Great Fairy was in the original Hyrule Warriors, and that was a ton of fun.
Yeah. I want to play as the king.
Oh, yeah. You can play as King Daphnes in the original Hyrule... Well, not the original, but the Switch Definitive Edition of Hyrule Warriors. You can play the Wind Waker version of it. Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, you should be able to play as the king in this game. I hope that they do that.
Do you think we'll see a return of Linkle?
Oh, I hope so. That bitch. How you doing, girl? Just appear out of nowhere. Sure, just put a portal in there. Breath of the Wild style Linkle, that'd be great.
Mm-hmm.
I really do hope that in terms of villains, that we get some brand new villains. I hope that we see proper Ganondorf, or proper Ganon, whatever they're going to call him, you know, the human form or whatever, because one of the things that I disliked about Breath of the Wild is that Ganon was just like an entity. It was just like a fog of smoke. So, like, I don't know. There was nothing that I cared about with, like, the enemy in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah. I don't know. I would like to see that too. However, I think you're going to have purists who are going to like throw a fit if they do throw that in there.
Well, the thing though is that we already know that he's going to be in the Breath of the Wild sequel. Because they found him buried underneath Hyrule Castle, and he's like mummified and shit. So I'm hoping that we see him before he gets mummified and everything in the prequel.
It would be really interesting. Yeah.
It would give some damn motivation, like other than just, you know, it's the evil curse and that's why there's heroes and that's why there's, you know, demise Ganon, whatever the hell. But just like,
yeah,
give me some characterization, give me like some factions, just a little bit of something to care about. I know that Zelda isn't typically like a story kind of thing, but you know, it's decent enough, so give me something to chew on there.
Yeah.
What's your face making right now? You got stupid thoughts in your brain.
I don't even know if I want to bring this up because it's such a stupid topic. It's such a stupid topic.
Go on. Go on. If it's stupid, we know.
The questionable placement of where this game would lie on the Zelda timeline.
Oh, it's dumb, man.
I know. That's why I didn't want to bring it up.
That's the thing about like the Zelda timeline, because this apparently takes like place way later in the timeline, and maybe it's an alternate timeline or something. That this is stuff that they've actually said.
Yeah.
Onuma or something. It's just so very, very clear that it's like, in terms of timeline, the games aren't really connected. There's a couple of games that are like slightly connected, and that's fun. Like, I think when they have more concrete connection things, I think that's really fun. But then, I mean, like, Breath of the Wild has like Lon Lon Ranch, but then it also has stuff from the DS games, and it also has stuff from like the other timelines and stuff too. So the timelines are technically converging or whatever. None of that like actually works or makes sense or it was intended to be so. It's just more like references. So yeah, like before we had an official timeline or whatever, I was interested in how the game's connected, because like if you look at like say Ocarina of Time to Wind Waker, you know, Wind Waker had a really cool story building arc where it was like, okay, Hyrule was flooded because King Daphnes needed to flood it because Ganondorf got the Triforce. So he did that as a last-ditch effort. So everything that you're playing in Wind Waker is, you know, a sea, but that's because you're literally on top of the world. So you can be like, oh, I'm on the top of Death Mountain right now, and this island right here is maybe the top of whatever formation in Ocarina of Time. And like little things like that are kind of cool. So when they have a closer connection, I really have a great time with it. But now it's just like, it's just so not connected, but maybe it is. Like, that's whatever.
Yeah. You're ruining the fun.
But as an isolated experience here, like just saying Breath of the Wild is an isolated thing, you know, it's really fun to think of like, ooh, the prequel and the sequel that are directly connected. That's the kind of stuff I would like to see and explore as its own isolated world or whatever.
Yeah. So, regardless, I'm really excited to have this. Yeah. I'm really excited to have this game. I cannot wait to see what they come out with it. Yeah, it's right around the corner.
Yes. And just lastly, like very, very briefly, Ubisoft had a Ubisoft Forward. We're not going to talk about it though.
Yeah.
I've chosen not to talk about it just because of what's going on with Ubisoft. If you don't know, I have a DLC for you. So let's go straight into that.
Okay.
So here's our additional DLC. This week I am recommending a video that Jim Sterling did back in like July about Ubisoft spending years protecting mental and physical abusers. So do watch the video. I know that Jim Sterling can be, you know, kind of grating on the ears, but this is a pretty concise video. At least 2/3 of it is a good listen. So listen to about, you know, the first 2/3 of it at least, and it is a good primer on what's going on.
Yeah, I listened to about the first half of it myself, so.
Basically, there are tons of very credible accusations of sexual assault worldwide and company-wide in Ubisoft, and Ubisoft's constant protection of their higher-ups who are alleged sexual predators, and their constant ignoring of victims. And Ubisoft, this has all come to light, and Ubisoft is like finally sort of addressing it, but they won't address these allegations in their Ubisoft Forwards, which is their Ubisoft Direct. So Ubisoft had a bunch of announcements like a couple of weeks ago that we didn't talk about because I chose not to. And same thing with this week. Same thing with that Scott Pilgrim video game that's published by Ubisoft. And so if you're buying that, you're supporting Ubisoft right now. And for me, like, I don't want to fall into their fake addressing of the situation. You know, they put out a little statement right before the forward that's not connected to the forward. And they're like, well, we're not going to talk about it in the forward for whatever BS reason. And then we're going to let the Ubisoft forward exist on its own because that's the hype machine. And, you know, they want to bury these allegations in hype and people's excitement. And it's so sad to see so many people just falling for it.
Well, and there's also the people who don't know about the allegations. So
yeah, and
if they're
that's
coming
exactly
because they want to listen to video game news, now they have to deal with that at the same time. Like, it makes sense why they chose to make the announcements the way that they did.
From a business perspective and a disgusting ass perspective.
100%.
Because they want to bury those allegations and not get that shit out there because they don't want people to know about it. Clearly they didn't want people to know about it because that's what they've been doing for years, is sweeping it under the rug. So anyway, this is me kind of making a stance and being like, I canceled my pre-order because there was a pre-order discount on that Gods and Monsters game. I forgot what it's even being retitled to because guess what? I don't care. I don't want to do them the service of even mentioning their game right now, just because I'm not buying anything Ubisoft.
That's fair.
Check out this video from Jimquisition because it's a good primer and it even addresses some counter arguments. So no to Ubisoft from me for right now.
Yeah, that's fair.
Galen, how about you? What are you doing?
Mine's a little bit more lighthearted. So
Good.
I have stumbled across a new musician group called The Longest Johns. They are a sea shanty folk singing group, and they have various folk songs, some takes on Irish songs that they do music to. A lot of stuff that you would hear on like a Pirates soundtrack if they had one. They're really good singers. And a lot of their songs that they both write on their own and do covers of. Highly recommend their song Oak, Ash, and Thorn. Also really recommend their song Ashes. That one really kind of struck with me, especially on my camping trip. They also do video game covers from time to time. The song from Warframe, We All Live Together. They do an amazing cover of that song as well. What makes them a little bit different for me is that they also involve themselves in the streaming world. And one of their things that they did is they did a YouTube series where they go on to the Microsoft game Sea of Thieves and just randomly join in people's crew, all of them, and they just ask, hey, do you mind if I sing you a song? And then they all do live performances in this pirate-themed video game while they're sailing around. And it is very wholesome, very fun, and I highly recommend supporting them. So give them a listen. They're a great time.
Excellent. And now on to our listener feedback section. It's not just the listener mail, it is also the what?
Listener feedback.
Okay.
Listener feedback.
So remember, leaving us ratings and likes or whatever the hell on whatever platforms are very important for getting us discovered through algorithms. We had a nice little bump recently, so it works, it happens, it's real. And to encourage that, we're reading out reviews on our Apple Podcasts. You can just click the 5-star thing and that's it, and then you're done with it. However, if you would like us to read out some of your lovely words, we can. You can write a review. Just like this lovely chap, Vante says, liking the more serious stories. I've been listening to this podcast for what feels like a year now. Thank you very much, Vante. And this most recent episode compelled me to write a review. They touched on how workers in the video game industry are regularly exploited by their employers. I think we did this maybe like a month or two ago.
Yeah, I want to say so.
And I would personally like for them to touch on these stories more whenever they become available. A major issue people have, especially in the US, is that they rarely hear about and are made aware of the major problems of capitalism until they are at a point where they just consider it normal. So I appreciate it being made clear that this is not okay for anyone to go through. So hopefully they read this review and keep up the good work.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Vante. We did read this review.
Yeah, I think the episode that he's referring to is actually the last one that we had Barry on altogether.
Oh, okay.
Because we were talking about, this was right after the Sony State of Play that they announced their game. I can't remember the name of the game itself. It was some indie whatever it was the brawler that was very highly stylized. But then the company itself had like several allegations that hit it right there, like, hey, nobody from the original team is even working on this game anymore, and these are the reasons why. So
yeah.
No, I remember the conversation that led to this. So
yeah, so thank you very much, Vante. We will be bringing up, the serious stuff, and keeping people aware of things that sometimes you don't usually hear. Just like I mentioned with the allegations against Ubisoft right now, I'm not going to ignore that. So whenever I can, I will mention that and be real as possible with everybody about it. And if I ever miss anything, feel free to shout out to us. You can send us an email. We'll read the email address in just a second. Give us corrections or suggestions on things to talk about if we miss a subject that you really want us to cover. So say it was something like that.
Yeah.
Feel free to talk to us and we will research it and we'll talk about it. Neither Galen nor I are journalists, but we're just two real people, I guess. So feel free to
Oni
send
will
us
bring
those
the serious, I will bring the jokes.
Yeah, sure.
And Oni will bring more booze.
Hey, only if we record later. I'm not drinking at 10 in the morning.
Hi-yo.
What hi-yo?
I meant booze, like B-O-O''S, not B-O-O-Z-E.
Oh! How could we possibly? Jesus, dude. No one got that.
What?
No one got that. If anyone got that, you can write into us in our email address, NintendoEverythingPod@gmail.com.
Tell me about how witty of a joke that was, because it had multiple meanings, by sending us that email to NintendoEverythingPod@gmail.com.
He did nothing of the sort.
That setup was a little bit longer than I expected it to be.
Oh. But that's everything you say.
And you are now a DJ rapper.
I am. By the way, I call that the zooms. Sometimes I get that when I have too much caffeine, I guess. There was a very brief instance, if you go back to my Get Vocal podcast from this past week, I was talking about Resident Evil Revelations 2, and I had a real trouble saying Revelations. I got the zooms. NintendoEverythingPod@gmail.com. Do send us in your emails. We're getting real light on those letters. And, send in topics of discussion about the industry, serious stuff, lighthearted stuff. We're all about it.
They can also be more on the broad side, like some of our
erotic
favorite...
friend fiction.
I refuse to read half of those.
Hey, I'll be the judge.
Some of our favorite conversations have just been the random, what do you think would happen if this happened?
Yeah, hypotheticals. Quick fire questions.
Yeah. Like this quick fire question.
Galen, quick, what's your shoe size?
13. Quick, what's your soch?
What?
I thought that was the other half of the joke.
What word did you say?
Soch, like social security number?
Oh my...
It's like an abbreviated term. Listen, I know that you are focused on your purest art form of rapping.
Galen, shut up and read the email so we can be done with this. I'm up to here. I'm here right now, mentally, okay?
Hey, I have to get it in because, you didn't like... you missed me last week. Let's not be frank here.
What are you saying, dude? God damn it. Read the email from the person who wants to be remaining anonymous. Go.
Yes, we have an anonymous email this week. God. It is specifically about accessibility in gaming. Question is simply, what are some useful features you've found in video games that you wish more games had? Thank you very much, anonymous user.
Thank you very much to this anonymous person.
Galen, why don't you take this one first?
Nope, you.
Quite frankly, I wish more games had more HUD control. Being able to select how much information you have on the screen at one time, especially in some more of the AAA games where they can be a little overwhelming.
Absolutely.
The people liking big numbers trend is definitely a thing, and you see this especially in a lot of looter shooters where you start attacking with a weapon and it's like 13, 12, 13, 13, 11, 11, 11, 13, 13, and it's like, no, I don't need any of this. I just need to see a health bar starting to go down. Like, I can do the mental math alone.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And especially because a lot of those numbers are completely arbitrary. They don't mean anything.
Yeah.
What does doing 13 damage do? You have no, retrospective thing to compare that to. So...
as long as there's, a clear distinction, in the actual game itself of when you do a crit or when you hit a weak spot or something like that, I don't need those numbers at all.
Exactly. So that's one thing that I would like. And also, it makes it really good for creators who want to just take away the entire HUD altogether and maybe do some machinima-esque exploits. That is something that I wish there was more of because I always found it really entertaining. So...
explain that for people who don't understand.
So machinima is basically you're taking a video game and you are recording voices over the characters and pretending the characters are speaking. Red vs. Blue from Rooster Teeth was probably one of the big ones to first come out. I know other games have also tried this as well. I want to say The Sims is really good in that as well for machinima exploits, but it's hard to do on some games because there's a lot of suspension of disbelief that needs to go into it, and removing those HUD items helps with that a lot.
So I'm in total agreement because games can be visually overwhelming, especially for the elderly like myself.
Mm-hmm. Like me. Hi.
Games are only getting more and more visually overwhelming, and I worry about the next generation as well because, you see games even Final Fantasy VII Remake, a game that's, beautiful most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's just got too many After Effects happening. If I could tone down that stuff just a little bit, I would, because it doesn't need to be overwhelming me with sparks and flying little mana whatever orbs. It's too much. Let me have sliders on your visual effects. Text sliders especially. I have real shit eyes. My glasses are very expensive, so just let me pop up that text real large. Even, and this is being somebody who translates and puts specific text in specific dialogue boxes, let me have a text slider, and then with the caveat of, if you increase the text beyond this size, it will screw up the intended effect of the points. So this is something that maybe people don't really notice, but for example, in say an RPG or something where you're reading text and you have a text box, you have so many characters in that text box before it has to overflow into another text box. So there is an artistry to making your point land in the text box or in the next text box. So you would break your things up, not because, okay, it finally hit the character limit, so let's move it over to the next text box. No, you want to break it up in clauses or, have a ... or something. It's like a page turn on a novel. There's all of this kind of stuff that programmers and especially people like me on the linguistic side are thinking about for how it's going to display, because that makes that moment land. You don't want a full text box and then text box number 2 literally says one word. It's an awful thing for flow. So anyway,
absolutely.
have a text slider, and then with the caveat that like, hey, this is going to screw up that flow, but if you need your text larger, like the lesser of two evils is this. So just FYI, I would love that in video games.
Mm-hmm. If we're also talking about more like dream aspects, I would actually love to see more languages being placed into games itself. And
Hey,
being able
me
to switch
too,
between them.
as a freaking localizer. Like,
Yeah.
pay people good wages to do proper ass localization.
Mm-hmm. No, that would be fantastic to be able to have that in there, because it just, yeah.
Another thing is like going back to like Bravely Default, where they had difficulty and encounter sliders.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just do that. Like, why the hell not? You know, like if you can balance your game to meet certain people's needs so that way they can enjoy their game, especially if it's got a good story and engaging characters. Oh my god, do that.
Yeah, 100%.
The Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy IX remasters in particular also had like an X3 speed, so you could just zoom through battles. That is just like gaming for the modern age for people that have jobs or whatever. I love that.
Yeah.
Even going back to the original Final Fantasy VII, this was in the original 1997 release of it, where there was an arrow indicator on your character that you could toggle on and off, and arrow indicators on screen transitions and interactable objects like stairs or something like that. So that way, if you're like visually kind of lost in this pre-rendered background, you're like, where do I go? What do I do? There's something there that sort of helps you, and you can turn it on and off at your will. I love things like that.
I would also love to see more games give the option if you want to have some sort of quick time involvement within the game itself during certain cutscenes. Like, this doesn't apply to every single game out there, but there are definitely times where you want to invest yourself in the story, or it's a really exciting part and you want to like kind of pull back a little bit. And then all of a sudden you have to reach for and grab the controller because you didn't realize there was something that's coming up. The Kingdom Hearts games, especially with the second one, was a little notorious for that, because you thought you were done with the battle, you were seeing the cinematic going on, and then all of a sudden start smashing Square. So
God, that's so very, very of its time. I'm glad that we're seeing less and less of that.
Me too. But I recognize its place and what it can do from a storytelling aspect. When I was talking about Metal Gear Solid 4 a couple episodes ago, and talking about like feeling that tension of the QuickTime event mixed with the character crawling and like having this struggle that the character was going through. One of my favorite video game memories of just feeling that connection there. So there's a place for it, but if you don't want to deal with it, you should have the option to turn it off.
Yeah. That is a great point. So thank you very much, Anonymous, for sending us in an email. And if you want to be just as
anonymous as them,
as anonymous, I don't know, send us in topics of conversation, corrections, cancellations, whatever it may be that starts with the letter C. Hey, that rhymed.
There you go.
Email us at NintendoEverythingPod@gmail.com.
Send your working rhymes to NintendoEverythingPod@gmail.com.
Now let's move on
to the end of the show.
You ruined the rhyme.
Maybe next time.
Listen, bro, this is getting out of hand.
So you're telling me that overall you're not much of a fan?
You're such a bad rapper.
I'm feeling tired. Let's finish this up so I can take a nap.
Was that supposed to be a rhyme? What? Was that just a statement about you're sleepy? I spit everywhere when I said that. That's how incredulous you made me. That rhymed! I'm such a better rapper than you!
Dubba.
So what's coming up? What's coming out? NintendoEverything.com, 24/7 news. We got reviews, we got translations, and all the good things at NintendoEverything.com. Stay connected to us on Twitter at NinEverything. Also our YouTube, youtube.com/NinEverything. Then you can
None
find...
of that rhymed.
What? What do you have to say right now that could possibly...
None of that rhymed. That's all I'm going to say.
My Twitter is at Oni_Dino. My Insta is Oni__Dino. And I do the weekly other podcast on Get Vocal. GETVOKL.com. Just follow me on Twitter. I'll send you links there. I also have a link, like a referral link, for signing up. So if you haven't joined yet, you can sign up. It's free, of course. But if you sign up using the referral link that I'll have on my Twitter, you get 100 V-Coin, which is basically like Twitch bits that you can use to tip other podcasters on there. And then I also get 100 V-Coin for you signing up as well. So it's a mutual help out thing. It's great.
Online currency is weird.
Yeah. But it's a great time. I had such a wonderful time with everybody last week. So thank you very much to everybody who showed up there. If you haven't shown up, come over to my Twitter and I'll post about it, of course. It's every Friday. It's really such a good time. Galen, where do you have a bad time?
I have the best of times on Twitter at Mobius087.
And how about the worst of times?
Well, it is definitely not the worst of times. I am actually going to be guesting on the Nintendo Fuse podcast with our good friend Barry. Yeah.
I don't know what that was.
Their latest live show is going to be this September 15th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, yeah, swing on by and come say hi, because you get to see me not being berated by Oni, which is, it's weird. It's a little awkward, but, you know, I feel like I get through it, so.
I think that you teach people how to treat you, so I'm sure they'll berate you at some point. You'll say something real dumb.
I guarantee you I will. It's within my nature.
Yes. What time is that? What date and time again?
That time and date again is going to be this Tuesday, September 15th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
So Galen, how does it feel to be back on the podcast once again after having a week off?
It's kind of like putting on a nicely fitted pair of shoes that I haven't worn in a couple of days. Like, it's good to walk around, it's good to like wiggle my toes, and yeah, it's nice. You're giving me a weird face look right now.
Yes, because what the are you? What is that?
What do you mean, what was that? I was trying to be, like, honest and, like, compassionate with my answer. What, were you expecting something different? He's thinking, ladies and gentlemen, he's thinking.
Well, we'll end the show just as horribly as we started the show. If anybody listened, that's great. Thank you. You're the true lovely listeners.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see you next week. Until then, for everything Nintendo. I forgot to say that part.
Almost forgot to say it. Stay tuned to Nintendo Everything.
Don't wear your shoes in your house, everybody.
I forgot that was a thing.
What?
I forgot that was a thing that came up, like, last year.
What?
We had a whole thing where I admitted to, like, wearing my shoes, or no, it was my slippers outside.
Oh.
And then walking inside with them.
I don't remember that, but just the thought of it. God, that's horrible.
I had to throw the slippers away.